The car ride nobody spoke in. You drive with the windows cracked just enough to let the chill in, not enough to get cold. You like that middle space, the one where you can still breathe, but you're not fully letting the world in. The highway is familiar, almost automatic. You've made this trip every Thanksgiving for years, and somehow each year the silence in your car seems to grow louder. There's music playing technically, but you're not listening to it. Just background noise to keep your thoughts from being too sharp. You're wearing the sweater your sister got you 3 Christmases ago, still wondering if she remembers. Probably not. Or maybe she does. And that's the point. The plan is the same: show up early, help set the table, keep the wine flowing, and pray nobody asks about your life too directly. Because you know what they're really asking for isn't details. It's a vulnerability tax. A subtle transaction where your successes get repackaged as arrogance and your quiet becomes ammunition. You think about last Thanksgiving when Uncle Darren cornered you by the fridge and asked, "Still doing that startup thing?" with the same tone someone might use to ask if you're still into astrology. You smiled, then said, "Yeah, still doing it," without adding that the startup thing had quietly sold its patent 6 months prior for a lot. For life-changing. But you didn't tell anyone. Not because you're ashamed, but because you remember what happened the last time you had something before everyone else. The cold shoulder, the jokes, the long conversations you weren't invited into anymore. So you kept it to yourself, all of it. The sale, the stock options, the quiet moment when the last wire transfer hit and your balance showed 8 figures for the first time. You even took yourself out to dinner to celebrate. Table for one, candle lit. You tipped the waiter $1,000 just because his shoes looked worn. Now you're pulling into your childhood driveway again, where the siding still peels and the porch light flickers when someone runs the microwave. You notice there's one less car in the driveway. Your cousin Jan didn't make it. She always said she hated the drama. Lucky her. You walk up the steps, gift bag in hand, non-offensive wine, neutral chocolates, and a card that says absolutely nothing specific. Just grateful for family. A phrase that never got close to your truth, but always passed the test of acceptability. Inside the house smells like cinnamon and thawed resentment. Your mom used to host Thanksgiving like a Broadway production. Now it's your sister's show. She's already busy in the kitchen, sleeves, rolled up hair, and a tight bun that says, "I'm fine, totally fine." She doesn't say hi, just nods. Turkey's dry, your dad calls from the couch, not looking up from his phone. You give a half smile. He's always been this way. Commentary without context. You help with dishes. You chop green beans. You stir a sauce that doesn't need stirring just to stay out of the living room. You watch your family interact like you're observing animals in a documentary. Notice how the male postures when threatened by emotional intimacy. Dinner is served. Plates are passed. Someone says grace too long and too loud, but you bow your head anyway. And then comes the eating, the chewing, the murmurs of approval, the small talk about who's pregnant, who's getting divorced, who just bought a boat they can't afford. Nobody asks you anything yet, and for a while, you're grateful. Then someone brings up the housing market, just loud enough to ask, "Aren't you still in the city?" Your cousin's new boyfriend, you don't remember his name, leans over. "What's rent like where you are?" he asks, fork paused in midair. You chew, you swallow, you say, "I don't rent." "Oh," he says, dragging out the vowel like it's a revelation. "You own..." Fancy. Your sister glances up then. Just a flick of the eyes. But it's enough. You say nothing more. The night continues. Wine bottles empty. Laughter gets louder in a way that doesn't feel happy. It feels performative, almost strained. You excuse yourself to the bathroom more out of habit than need, just to reset your expression. When you come back, dessert's already being plated. Pumpkin pie, store-bought whipped cream, one sliver of pecan. You sit down just as your sister carries over the last plate and slides it in front of you. Then, with her hand still on the back of your chair, she leans in and says it under her breath. "Is it true?" You pause mid-slice. "Is what true?" That you have, like, millions. The room keeps laughing behind you. The world keeps moving. But your heart does a quiet thing. It steps aside and watches you answer. You don't lie, you don't deflect, you just nod. And her voice goes quiet in a way you've never heard before. Not angry, not judgmental. Just recalculating. Her voice went quiet after dessert. You can still feel the warmth of the pie in your mouth, but suddenly, everything tastes like static. Your sister doesn't move, doesn't blink. Her hand stays pressed lightly against the back of your chair, like she's trying to ground herself or hold you in place. Either way, it's not affectionate. You glance at her. Her eyes are too still. She's not surprised, not exactly. It's more like something she always suspected but didn't want confirmed. You know that look. It's the look people get when a story they told themselves gets rewritten in an instant. She swallows slowly. How much, she whispers. You don't answer. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you know the number isn't what matters. It never is. It could be 1 million or 50. It's not the figure that stings. It's the fact that you have it, and they don't. You told me you were struggling, she says, quieter now. The tone of someone who believes betrayal can only happen in whispers. You did say that once. Back when the startup was just prototypes and whiteboards. Back when you were eating cereal for dinner and showering at your co-founder's apartment. That was years ago. She didn't ask again. I was, you say, voice even. Things changed. She pulls her hand back and wipes it on a napkin that's already folded too neatly. The conversation ends without fanfare, but the energy in the room shifts. You feel it ripple like heat off a stove. She didn't tell anyone yet, but her silence says more than words could. You go back to your pie. You finish it out of habit, not taste. The laughter is louder now, but it doesn't reach you. Everyone is still performing Thanksgiving, but now you're watching it from the outside in. It's not until the coffee comes out too bitter, always too bitter, that it starts. First, it's your cousin Alex. He's never been subtle. He throws back the last of his wine and says, "Man, if I had real money, I'd vanish. Wouldn't be sitting here eating dry turkey." A chuckle floats through the room. Your uncle adds, "I'd pay off this house and buy a cabin in the woods. Live off the grid. No more family holidays." More laughter, more wine. Your dad, who hasn't looked up from his phone all evening, finally chimes in. Well, someone here did well for themselves. City boy, fancy apartment, paid off car right. He doesn't look at you. He just says it loud enough for everyone to hear. And just like that, the grenade goes off. Your sister doesn't deny it. She doesn't have to. The silence after your dad's comment is filled with curiosity, sharpening into suspicion. The room leans in. Not physically, but emotionally. They're pivoting toward you now. Your aunt clears her throat. Wait, are you rich? Your spoon pauses mid-stir in your coffee. You could laugh, but it wouldn't help. I'm comfortable, you say, which is technically the most laughably humble way to describe what $15 million in post-tax liquidity can do for a person. Your mom's brother, Uncle Dan, who once borrowed $200 from you and never brought it up again, laughs, but it's not kind. Comfortable, he repeats. Man, we were just passing around a GoFundMe for Julie's car accident last month, and you're out here sitting on stacks. The mention of Julie, your third cousin, who you haven't seen since she was 14, is strategic. It places guilt in the space where gratitude should be. You know the tactic. Emotional sleight of hand. Your sister finally speaks again, and her voice is sweet. Too sweet. So when were you going to tell us? There it is. You sip your coffee, burn your tongue on purpose. It never came up. Oh, come on, she says. You hit it. Someone murmurs yeah under their breath. You don't even catch who. It doesn't matter. It's spreading. You take a slow breath and meet her eyes. I didn't hide it. I just didn't announce it. Your mom finally says something, and it's worse than you expect. We're family. What's yours is, well, you know, we all helped raise you. The word helped lands like a brick. Your childhood wasn't exactly warm. Your dad mocked your dreams. Your mom withheld affection like it was a paycheck you hadn't earned. Your sister alternated between silent competition and loud criticism. And now they're saying they built you. Helped raise me, you repeat. She blinks. Well, we supported you. It's what families do. You look at your plate, at your empty cup, at the edge of the tablecloth that hasn't been washed since last year. And something in you hardens, not cruel, not angry. Just done. You lean back. Do you remember when I asked for a loan after college, just enough to cover rent until I got hired? The room stills. Your mom looks confused. You never. I did. You said no. You said I should learn to hustle. No one speaks. You stand not dramatically, just enough to exit the scene. Bathroom, you mumble. But you don't go there. You walk out the front door instead, into the cold air, into the silence, into something that feels like clarity. Behind you, the voices rise again, not loud but no longer muffled. Your name is mentioned. Then money. Then the phrase selfish tossed around like a napkin someone's done using. You walk to the car, you sit in the driver's seat, and for the first time all night you let yourself smile. Not because it's funny, but because you were right. Something did feel different this year. Suddenly, everyone has a reason. You don't sleep much that night. The guest room they gave you is the same one you grew up in. Same creaky floorboard near the closet, same faded posters on the wall. Though you notice they've moved your old desk to the garage. No one asked if you minded. Why would they? You lie awake staring at the ceiling, not from guilt, but from a slow creeping realization you are now the family story. They don't need facts, they'll fill in the gaps with what flatters their version of things. Tomorrow you know there will be conversations in corners behind partially closed doors, and every single one will start with, "I just don't understand why he didn't tell us." By morning it's already begun. You walk into the kitchen at 7:40 a.m., hoping to sneak a cup of coffee before the floodgates open. Your aunt's already at the table flipping through a catalog she isn't really reading. "Oh, morning," she says, not looking up. "Morning." She taps the page with a pen. "You know, if I had your kind of money, I'd buy a cabin for your mom to retire in. That woman's worked herself into the ground." You don't respond. You know better. Responding is an invitation. Silence is resistance. But she barrels on. She never asked for anything, you know, always gave everything to her kids. You pour your coffee, sugar, no cream, just the bitterness. When you sit, she finally looks up. Of course, I'm not saying you owe anybody. But if it were me, you tune out. 10 minutes later, your cousin Alex strolls in shirtless, scratching his chest like he owns the place. "Yo, quick question. My truck needs some repairs. Nothing major. You think you could spot me like 1,000. You almost laugh. You actually almost do. But you don't. Instead, you say, "Maybe you should set up a GoFundMe." His smirk fades just a hair. "Harsh," he mutters. "Didn't know being rich meant being petty." Before you can reply, your sister enters holding her phone like it's the gavel at an auction. "So I was thinking," she says, "we could pool together and buy a bigger place for Thanksgiving next year. One where we all have room. And if you contributed a chunk of that, say 50 grand, it could really be something special." You stare at her. 50 grand. Like she's talking about spare change. You take a sip. You pick that number out of a hat. "No, I looked up vacation homes nearby. Good ones." Your mom enters right on cue, apron already dusted with flour. You get naming rights. "We could call it the family house." You say nothing. You think about the years they let you feel like you didn't measure up. The way your sister once threw away your college acceptance letter because she was mad you got in somewhere she didn't. The way your mom said, "Don't brag when you called about your first job." Now they want a plaque with your name on it. You smile into your coffee. "Let me think about it." It's not a no, but it's not what they wanted. The air thickens. By the time the second round of breakfast ends, people are pulling you aside one by one. Your dad corners you in the hallway with a half-eaten biscuit in hand. "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye," he starts. You brace yourself. "But remember that summer I taught you to change your oil. That's a skill most kids never learn." You blink. "Thanks." He clears his throat. "All I'm saying is I helped shape you, in my own way." And there it is again. The rebrand. Suddenly everyone's a stakeholder in your success. Later, your mom catches you outside while you're pretending to check the mail. "I know you're overwhelmed," she says softly, "but think of what you could do for the family. Scholarships for the little ones. A proper headstone for Nana." Your breath fogs in the air. She puts a hand on your shoulder. "It would mean a lot to everyone. To me." And you want to say yes. Or maybe more accurately, you want to say yes. Because a piece of you still wants to be that version of you that they would have loved if only you'd been different. But you're not that person. You're the person who built something out of nothing, alone, quietly. And now everyone has a reason why that nothing was somehow theirs all along. By late afternoon, they've started discussing the money openly. Like you're not even there. Like it's already been redistributed. Your uncle talks about putting his son through college. Your aunt wants to start a candle business. Your sister wants to pay off her mortgage and maybe get a boat just for weekends. No one asks if you're okay. No one asks what it took. No one asks what it cost you. They just ask what's next for them. You excuse yourself and go back to your room. You sit on the bed with your suitcase half zipped, and your heart lodged somewhere between your ribs and your memory. You remember the night you got the final call from your lawyer. The sale had gone through, your balance updated, and instead of champagne, you sat on the floor of your apartment and cried, not because of the money, but because you had no one to call who would celebrate it without asking for a piece of it. That moment, that quiet solitary moment, it's echoing now. You realize something. Then this house, this gathering, this entire setup, it was always about keeping you in a role. The quiet one, the smart, but nothing too impressive one, the one they could be proud of as long as you didn't outgrow the story. But now you have, and they don't know what to do with that. They said you owe them. It begins with the mashed potatoes. You're in the kitchen reheating leftovers you don't even want stirring with the kind of forced rhythm that passes for peace in this house. Your sister stands beside you, arms crossed, watching, like she's waiting for the right moment to say something she already rehearsed in her head. She doesn't waste time. Look, she starts, I'm not saying you have to give everyone a huge check or anything. You raise an eyebrow. But she sighs, but we were there. We were part of your journey. You turn the burner off. The click echoes louder than it should. Part of it. She steps forward, voice softening in that performative way she's always used when she wants something. You don't remember all those nights I stayed up with you while you stressed over job apps. I was your sounding board, your therapist. You nod slowly. I remember. And I also remember you laughing when I said I wanted to build something on my own. You called it a cute idea. She flinches, but not much. That's not the point. It kind of is. The door creaks open and your mom pokes her head in. Are you two fighting? You both answer no at the same time too quickly. She enters anyway. I just wanted to say, we all made sacrifices. This family gave up a lot over the years. Your laugh slips out sharp and small. Like what? Like comfort, she says. Privacy, stability. Do you think it was easy raising a kid with big dreams with expensive hobbies? You blink. I paid for college on scholarships. Exactly, she snaps. Because we couldn't. That weighed on us. Your dad appears next. Great. Now it's a summit. He's holding a beer and leaning against the doorframe like he's about to deliver a monologue. We're not asking for handouts. But we did our part. Morally, emotionally, hell, I taught you to ride a bike, didn't I? You stare at him. That's your justification. Teaching me to pedal. He raises his voice a notch. I'm saying you didn't do this alone. Did you ever believe in it, you ask quieter? In the business, in me. He shifts. That's not the point. The point is families support each other. You let the silence stretch. Let them hang there in it, arms crossed and justification spilling into the air like steam. Then your aunt walks in, the one who only ever calls when she needs something. She folds her arms. We all helped in our way. I gave you your first job reference. That lasted 2 weeks, you remind her. I got fired for showing up too early. She waves that off. Still, you owe this family. And there it is, oh. The word lands like a cracked dish on the tile. Everyone flinches, but no one corrects her. Because that's what they all think. Not hope, not wonder. Expect. You try not to let your jaw tighten, but it does anyway. What exactly do I owe you? There's a pause. Your sister breaks it. Gratitude, she says. And maybe just enough so that we're not struggling while you're thriving. Enough, you repeat. How much is enough? No one answers. Because they don't know. Because there is no enough. Because once they believe your success belongs to them, the number becomes irrelevant. The dollar amount is just the first door they plan to keep walking through, room by room, until you have nothing left that wasn't shared, diminished, or repurposed as proof of their importance. Your mom wipes her hands on a dish towel. You wouldn't even be where you are if it weren't for this family. You step back, nod once. You're right. They all look surprised. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for this family. If it weren't for being ignored when I needed help, for being mocked for dreaming big, for having to figure out how to self-parent at 17 because no one else was going to. If it weren't for the years I spent feeling like I had to shrink so the rest of you wouldn't feel small. No one speaks. You step around them and open the fridge just so you have something to do with your hands. The light spills over you like some ironic spotlight. Maybe I do owe you, you say, taking out the bottle of water. But it's not money. You take a sip. It's space. That's what I owe you. Space to be exactly who you are without dragging me back into it. They don't get it. Not fully. You can see it in their eyes. They're calculating, mentally rearranging the story again. Your dad mutters you've changed. You nod. God, I hope so. You leave the kitchen before they can respond, walking down the hallway with slow, deliberate steps. Not because you want to make a scene, but because you need them to see your back, to feel the absence. You pass the family photos on the wall, smile for a moment at your childhood self, crooked teeth, scraped knees, wide eyes full of belief that someone would eventually see you for who you were. Now they have, and they resent it. You say one thing and everything breaks. You wake the next morning to quiet too quiet. In this house, silence is never peaceful. It's the kind that waits teeth clenched for someone to slip. A silence that builds like a thunderhead. You dress slowly, choosing jeans and a plain black shirt. No designer logos, no leather shoes. You even leave your watch in the suitcase. You know it won't matter. They've already decided who you are now, and the number in your account has filled in every blank they ever had about you. Downstairs, the house smells like burnt toast and cooled resentment. Your sister's at the sink, rinsing dishes that don't need rinsing. Your mom's flipping through a coupon flyer like it's scripture. No one says good morning. You pour yourself a coffee, each clink of the spoon in the mug echoing too loud. Then your dad clears his throat. I think we should talk. Of course he does. You follow him into the den. The others trickle in like it's a scheduled intervention. You sit in the one chair that still squeaks when you lean back a detail you find absurdly grounding. At least that hasn't changed. Your dad sits forward, elbows on his knees. We've all been thinking about what you said. Here it comes. And we realized, maybe we could have supported you more back then, he says, as if the words taste like vinegar. But now that you've made it, you have a chance to do what's right. You almost admire the phrasing, not generous, not compassionate, just right. As if this has nothing to do with love and everything to do with moral bookkeeping. Your mom nods. We don't want to fight. We just think it's fair to share in the blessing. Fair? That word spins around the room like a loose ceiling fan blade. I don't think I'm the one rewriting what's fair, you say. I worked for what I have, alone. But it's not just about you anymore. Your sister cuts in, stepping closer. It's about us, this family. You're not an island. You take a breath. Not to calm down, you're not even angry, just tired of hearing people equate proximity with investment. I never asked any of you for help. And when I did once, you said no. That was different, your mom says. No, it was honest. Your aunt steps in now, arms folded. You're punishing us for the past. You shake your head. No, I'm just not rewarding it. That's when your sister's voice sharpens. So what, you just get rich and forget everyone who was part of your life? No, you say, I remember everything. That's why I'm careful now. And then, right there in front of everyone, your sister drops it. Well, maybe it's time we go public with what we know. I mean, if you're going to act like we're nothing to you, maybe the world should hear our side. You stare at her, heart still. It's not a threat. It's a confession. She's been stewing on that for days, weeks maybe, waiting for the moment to tip the scale. The world, you say softly. What world? She frowns. The media, social, your old coworkers. You think people won't talk if they hear how you ghosted your family after getting rich. You actually smile. Not because it's funny, but because it's so far beneath you, it's like watching someone throw a match at the ocean. You think I care about optics? She blinks, caught off guard. I'm not famous, you continue. I'm not fragile. I don't need you to like me. And if you think guilt is going to open my wallet, you're badly underestimating the version of me that made it through all your silence. The room stills. Then your dad speaks quietly. We want you to leave something behind. You meet his eyes. I already did years ago. And you stand. It's not a grand exit. There's no storming out, no slamming doors. Just movement. Just the sound of your feet on old wood floors. Just the click of your suitcase wheels behind you. Your mom calls out, don't do this, not like this. You pause in the doorway. I didn't do anything. That's the part that hurts you. You drive away with the windows cracked again. The cold air bites your cheeks this time, but you don't mind. You remember something small, stupid even your sister once said when you were kids after she'd stolen your Halloween candy and insisted you owed her for giving you life experience. You remember that feeling, the absurdity, the helplessness. But this time you're not helpless. You're holding the wheel, and you're not going back. The ultimatum over leftovers. You're halfway down the interstate when your phone starts buzzing. The first text is from your sister. If you leave now, don't bother coming back. You stare at it, letting it sit on the screen as the miles tick by. You don't even bother to swipe it away. 2 minutes later, your mom sends a group message. Let's all calm down. This isn't what your father or I wanted. Please reconsider before you make things permanent. You notice your name is left out entirely. It's addressed to everyone, but the plea is squarely pointed at you. Then your cousin Alex chimes in. Bro, you really just bounced over what feelings? It was just talk. You toss the phone onto the passenger seat, let it buzz. The white lines blur by. Your knuckles loosen on the steering wheel. You're not angry, not sad, not confused. You're clear. And clarity is so rare in your family, it feels like rebellion. By the time you reach your apartment, it's just after 9 p.m. You drop your bag, kick off your shoes, and let the silence wrap around you like a warm, weighted blanket. No one talking over you. No one watching your face for signs of guilt. Just you and the soft hum of the fridge. You microwave the leftovers you took because, yes, you still took the damn food. You didn't grow up in that house without learning to claim something when you could. Turkey, stuffing the last piece of pecan pie. As the microwave spins, you check your phone again. 32 messages. You don't open them. You don't need to. You already know the pattern: initial outrage, then the guilt trip, then the threat, and finally the olive branch hidden inside a dagger. But it's the voicemail that surprises you. Your sister. No script this time. Just her voice low, sharp, trembling in a way she probably didn't intend to record. You can't just run off like that and act like we don't matter. You think money gives you the right to erase us? You want to punish us for being imperfect? Fine. But if you walk away now, you're not just walking away from Thanksgiving. You're walking away from all of it. Birthdays, holidays, the family, us. There's a pause, then she adds quieter. So decide, give back or get out. You sit at the kitchen table pie, cooling beside your elbow phone still in hand. And you feel it again, that quiet click inside your chest, like something finally aligning. Because now it's not even about the money, it's about the terms. They want to recast history to make your presence conditional. To define love as a contract, we gave you guilt, and now you owe us grace. We gave you doubt, so now you owe us comfort. You think back to the startup's ugliest days, the ones they never saw, the second mortgage you almost took, the friend you lost because you couldn't afford his wedding trip, the month you lived on protein bars and borrowed Wi-Fi. They weren't there for that. But they are here now when the pie is done and the plate is full, and all they had to do was show up and make demands. You could say nothing. You could ghost them entirely. But something in you wants it written, spoken, laid down plainly, your own terms for once. So you call your lawyer. He picks up on the second ring even on a holiday weekend. You've paid him well enough to never let your name go to voicemail. I need to revise my will, you say. There's a pause. Then dryly, already. You laugh. It's time to update the list. He hums. Same primary recipient. No, not anymore. And you tell him everything: who's in, who's out, who gets a sliver, who gets nothing. You don't draft it out of bitterness. You draft it out of clarity. You're not giving out rewards or punishments. You're giving out peace. To yourself. Later that night, as you stare out the window, city lights blinking like scattered promises, you think about how odd it is, how quickly love turns into leverage, how people keep receipts on each other, how they say family like it's an invoice, not an invitation. But you're done negotiating the terms of being loved. The leftovers are cold now. You eat them anyway. And with each bite, you reclaim something that was never theirs to hold. You leave and then you call your lawyer. The next morning, the sun comes through the blinds like it doesn't know anything happened. You sit up slowly, stretch your arms, and feel the familiar ache in your jaw, tension from clenching your teeth in your sleep again. Not from anger, from defense, from memory. You walk barefoot to the kitchen, coffee brewing, with that sharp scent you love more for its ritual than the taste. The city is quiet today, unusually so. Long weekend, everyone's either out of town or sleeping in. You check your phone again. Fewer notifications this time. Just 2 texts, both from your mom. The last one says, "We can fix this, don't do anything rash." You shake your head and place the phone face down. You're not going to respond. Not yet. Not until your silence has had time to mean something. You open your laptop. There's something methodical, even meditative about typing your own will. Most people leave it to the lawyers. You prefer to draft the outline yourself. It feels honest, unfiltered. You start with the obvious. The house by the lake goes to your best friend, the one who covered your rent that one month and never asked for it back. The one who once stayed on the phone with you for 6 hours during a panic attack because you were scared of failing and had no one else to say that to. The retirement fund a scholarship in your mentor's name. She never had kids. She gave her time, her feedback, her lunch breaks, and told you the truth even when it hurt. Your digital assets that goes into a foundation you're finally building, quietly. For kids like you, once were hungry, smart scared, and always being told they were too ambitious for their own good. As for your family, you leave them what they left you for most of your life: silence. No checks, no clauses, no messages hidden in donations. Just absence. You finish the document, save it, and forward it to your lawyer. He replies an hour later with a single line. Understood, executing updates. The word executing feels right. You step outside, walk through the streets, no destination, just motion. And as you walk, you notice how light your steps feel, like you've been carrying a story that no longer needs retelling. You pass a cafe, same one you used to sit in for hours with your laptop nursing a single tea because you couldn't afford anything else. The same barista is there. You nod. She doesn't remember you. You walk a little farther and stop at the bookstore. Inside on a shelf is a book you once pulled off for comfort, a cheap paperback that got you through one of the hardest months of your life. You buy another copy, not because you need it, but because it's yours now. You survive the chapter it helped you through. Later back home, you take a long shower, the kind where the water runs too hot but you don't care. Steam fogs the mirror and you draw a small, smiley face in it like you're 12 again. That version of you still lives in there somewhere. The kid who wanted everyone to like him, who believed if he were just successful enough, they'd finally treat him like he mattered. Now you know better. You dress in something comfortable, something simple. You order dinner from your favorite hole-in-the-wall spot, the one that never judged you when you paid with quarters. As you eat, you open your email. You type a single message to one person. Your cousin Ben. He never joined in the dog pile, never asked for a dime, didn't say much of anything at all, really. Just watched with those soft, sad eyes of his and helped carry your plate to the sink. Hey, thanks for not turning it into a spectacle. If you ever want to grab lunch, let me know. My treat. You hit send and feel something unclench in your chest. That night you light a candle. Not because you're spiritual, but because it smells like bergamot and cedar, and for some reason that makes the room feel like safety. And you sit on the couch and realize this is the first time in a long time you felt like you weren't performing. For anyone. Not for love, not for approval, not for validation. Just here, alive, and still you. Thanksgiving round 2, on your terms. The idea comes quietly, no big revelation, no cinematic moment of clarity. Just a thought while folding laundry. You're not done with Thanksgiving. You're just done with their version of it. So you start making calls, not to family, to the people who showed up in silence and mess in those gray days when your success hadn't formed yet. The ones who loaned you books, who stayed up with you over ramen and rejection letters. The ones who never asked what they could get out of you. You rent a space. A rooftop terrace with an open kitchen and string lights that feel less decorative and more like soft punctuation at the end of a hard year. You hire a caterer, not fancy, just good. Comfort food, warm rolls, grilled vegetables, pie that doesn't taste like guilt. You send invitations and they're all the same. You helped me get here. I'd love to say thank you in person. That's it, no hint of obligation, just truth. And people come. They show up in sweaters and scarves, hugs and jokes, arms filled with wine bottles and Tupperware just in case. One brings their toddler who spends half the night trying to eat a decorative candle. Another shows up late, but still carries the same laugh they had when they lent you $5 for coffee 4 years ago. You don't make a toast, you make conversation. You don't give speeches, you give seconds. The food goes fast, the wine goes faster. There's no talk of money, no whispered alliances, no inventory of favors owed. Instead, they ask how you're really doing. Instead, they notice when your smile falters and someone presses a hand to your shoulder and says, "You don't owe us anything. Just be here." You step back at one point just to take it all in. The soft hum of friendship, the clink of glasses, the way someone you knew from your worst year is now offering another guest the last slice of pie like it's sacred. And standing there, you realize something. You built this too. Not just the wealth, the peace. The room feels like the opposite of that house you left. Here, you don't have to shrink. Here, no one needs you to be a version of yourself that fits into their discomfort. And then, just when the night is starting to fold itself into warm goodbyes and leftovers packed in foil, Ben shows up. He's the only one from the family you invited. He stands awkwardly at the edge of the gathering holding a plant because he didn't know what to bring. "Hey," he says, "this place is incredible." You smile. "So are you. You didn't have to come." He shrugs. "You didn't have to invite me." You offer him a plate already full. "Sit, eat. There's no sides in this house, just seats." He laughs that quiet laugh you always remembered from your childhood, back when you both used to sneak cookies before dinner and share headphones on long car rides. You sit beside him for a while. Don't talk much, don't need to. At one point, he glances around and says, "It's wild how different this feels." You nod, because no one here sees me as a transaction. He doesn't respond, just passes you a roll. And that's enough. Later that night, after everyone's gone, you walk through the rooftop slowly collecting plates, wrapping up leftovers. You move quietly, not out of sadness, but out of reverence. You built a version of Thanksgiving that asked for nothing but presents, and somehow it gave you everything back. You sit on the ledge with the last slice of pie and no fork, just your fingers and the skyline. The city glows below, full of stories you'll never hear, but this one, you lived it. You remember the kid you were. You remember the man they tried to define. And you realize this gathering wasn't about proving anything. It was about finally seeing yourself in a room where no one needs to be impressed to stay. The letter they didn't expect. You send the letters a week later. Not out of spite, not revenge, just resolution. Each one is handwritten, on thick paper. Neat, calm penmanship. No drama, no accusations. Just words measured like breath. You address each envelope personally. No mass emails, no blind copies. It matters that they hold it in their hands. You write to your mother first. You tell her about the Thanksgiving when you were 10, when you helped her peel potatoes and she smiled at you like you mattered. You tell her how you chased that smile for 20 years, only to learn that it disappeared every time you stepped out of the box she'd built for you. You tell her you still love her, but that love doesn't mean surrender. You write to your father. You remind him of the garage, the radio tuned to some crackling sports station, the smell of oil, the way he passed you a wrench like it was a gift. You tell him that moment meant something to you, but that doesn't mean he gets to rewrite the rest. You tell him you're not a machine he built. You're a man who survived his silence. To your sister, you write the most. You tell her about how you used to wait for her approval like a dog waits at the door, how every small success felt like a trap because you never knew if she'd celebrate it or tear it apart. You tell her you wish it could have been different, that you would have shared everything, every dollar, every joy if you believed she loved you when you had nothing. But now you've learned that love without freedom is just a leash. To your aunt, your cousin, your uncle, brief words. Each one a soft goodbye wrapped in clarity. You don't ask for peace, you declare it, because for the first time you understand that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And you're the one holding the key. The responses trickle in. Your sister doesn't reply. Your mother sends back a long message that feels more like defense than remorse. She says she's hurt you feel that way. Not that she's sorry, just hurt that you noticed. Your father leaves a voicemail. "You've always been too sensitive, but I hope you're happy now." You don't return the call. Ben texts you a photo. It's the letter you wrote him. He framed it. "First time anyone in the family's ever written me something that didn't ask for a favor," he writes. It meant something. You sit with that for a while. You think about how small gestures carry the most weight, how clarity often lands quieter than anger but cuts deeper. You fold the last copy of your will into a clean black folder and place it in your drawer. Then, for the first time in what feels like years, you clean your apartment. Not because company's coming, not because anyone will see it, just because the space around you finally matches the one inside you. No more debts of guilt, No more borrowed shame, just your life. Owned outright? You sit by the window as dusk falls, watching the city change color. You think about how strange it is the way people think inheritance is only about money. Sometimes it's about stories. Sometimes it's about silence. And sometimes it's about finally choosing your own ending. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to approve. You just need the letter to arrive, and for the envelope to sit in their hands with the full weight of who you are now. Not because you owe them, but because quietly you've already let them go. The villa they'll never see again. You buy the villa in early spring. No announcement, no ribbon cutting. Just a signature, a wire transfer, and the soft echo of keys sliding across a marble counter. It's not the biggest, not the flashiest, but it breathes. Wide windows open to a private cliffside. The sea below doesn't crash, it exhales. The wind here isn't loud, it hums. You arrive with nothing but a duffel bag and a new set of linens. No need for memories in boxes. No need to unpack the past. The rooms are quiet, in a good way. Each one offers a kind of stillness your childhood never knew. No slamming doors, no voices behind walls, just the sound of you choosing where to place the lamp. Some days you forget to speak out loud, and it feels like healing. You write in the mornings now, not emails, letters to no one. You describe the way the sun lands on the sea at 6:47 a.m., the way the birds argue over fruit in the olive tree, the way peace, real peace, feels like forgetting who you had to be just to be allowed in the room. You don't think about them much, except when you cook. There's something sacred about making meals for yourself without apology. Not measuring servings like you're preparing to offer proof. Not plating for approval. Just feeding yourself with care. You roast fish with lemon and eat with your fingers. You drink red wine slowly. You leave the dishes until morning and never feel guilty. One afternoon, a letter arrives. No return address, but you know the handwriting. Your sister's tight slanted, always slightly rushed, like the ink itself didn't want to linger too long. You don't open it. You light a candle and place it beside the envelope. Let it sit there like an artifact. You've read it already in 1,000 different tones and versions across your life. You know what it says. You're overreacting. This isn't what family does. You could have handled this differently. You owe it to us to try. But you already did try. You answered the questions they never asked. You waited for the support that never came. You hoped against reason that if you just achieved enough, you'd finally be allowed to be full size in their eyes. But you're not shrinking anymore. They'll never see this villa. Not because you're hiding it, but because it's not built for people who only came to take. This home is not a display case. It's a sanctuary. It's your line in the sand. You sit out on the terrace and watch the tide draw that line again and again. You think of the version of you that used to beg for love disguised as approval. And you let him go too. Not with anger, but with gratitude. 'Cause he got you here. And now, you're free. You stay on the terrace long after the sun disappears. The sky fades from peach to deep indigo, and the stars blink awake one by one. The air shifts cooler, but you don't move. You wrap the silence around your shoulders like a shawl and let it hold you. No one's calling now. No one's asking. No one's needing you to explain why peace was never something you owed them. You watch the candle beside the unopened letter flicker in the breeze. It won't last the night, but that's okay. Some things burn out quietly exactly as they should. You breathe, not the shallow measured breath you used to take at the dinner table, waiting for the next jab, the next passive-aggressive comment. This one is deeper, slower, the kind that starts in your chest and ends somewhere between your ribs and your soul. You walk barefoot across the stone floor, leave the candle burning, and slide open the door to the bedroom. The sheets are clean. The night air slips in. There's no one waiting for you to prove anything. There's no one waiting to be disappointed. You lie down one arm behind your head and think about nothing. Not the letters, not the money, not the villa, just this breath. And then the next, and the next. Because sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness. It looks like release, like finally refusing to carry what was never yours to hold. And in this moment, with the sea humming below and the sky stretching overhead, you understand. You never needed them to see your worth. You just needed to see it yourself. And if you're still awake, that's okay too. Some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself.